As I was coming out of high school and through college and that whole transition, I thought it was a big joke. I was not a wrestling fan. I never watched wrestling. Then I got my degree. I blew my knee. I was planning on being a football player, making big money. Since I lost my knee, I had to teach. I settled down with 2 children, a third one on the way, for $4,300 a year. But my friend was a big-time wrestling fan, and he talked me into calling Bert Ruby, who was the big-time wrestling promoter in Detroit at the time. I called Bert, and I, at 2:30 in the morning, told him I wanted to be a wrestler. They were looking for somebody, so he invited me over the next day, and he explained the wrestling business to me, what it was. We decided that I should wear a mask because I was a teacher and a coach, and that was my drive and what I wanted to do. We put a name on it. I put a mask on it, wore a cap and gown, and we called me the student because I was learning the wrestling business. The animal. We never come up with the idea of calling me an animal. The crowd, the fans, because of the hairy body in the annex, started calling me an animal. So one day I'm doing a very articulate interview, and Vince Jr. says, "You're making too much sense for an animal," which kind of zinged me a little bit. So I'll show him. This is all TV, and it's taped. We can change it. So he sticks the mic in front of me, he says, and he asked me a question. I went, and it took me 5 minutes to answer his question. And I was really busting on him. This was kind of a rib. I got all done. I thought, boy, he said, "That's it. That's what I want." I went, "Oh, God." I was known for 2 things. And this is crazy. It wasn't about wrestling. I was known because I had a green tongue. The truth of the matter is I'd had a few drinks before a TV show, and I put some Clorettes in my mouth. Didn't have a clue that my tongue was green. Went out, did the TV show so the promoters wouldn't smell any booze on me. And when I come back, the switchboard lit up. "Why is his tongue green?" Because this is back when TV was live. The following Friday, I went to the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh. It had these big green tongues hanging down all over the place. And I thought, God, this is cool. So about every 2 or 3 months, I would eat some Clorettes for a laugh. I'm a little slow. But then finally, I figured out every time I did that, I got this great reaction. So I started taking Clorettes before every match and making my tongue green. And the results of that was really the best smelling breath in the wrestling industry. I had great breath. Wasn't much of a performer, maybe, but I did smell good. The turnbuckles became a fetish of mine, and it all started one day in Pittsburgh at a small studio TV shoot. This is old school now we're talking about. We used to get about 200 people in a studio, and we had plywood around the outside with faces painted on it, 200 people sitting in front, and we'd give away things like glasses sometimes, and this particular time they give away pillows, thank God. And the pillows were like these little couch pillows, and a lady got mad at me and threw one of her pillows at me. Well, I got the pillow, and not as stupid as I look, I knew that there was 200 more pillows out there, so if I threw the pillow back at her, that I'd have 200 pillows coming at me. If I sat on it, it was going to be a very boring match, so what are you going to do with a pillow? I took it, I bit it, ripped it apart, and this stuff just exploded out of it because this pillow was packed real tight. It was like one of those couch pillows, satin couch pillows. It was packed real tight, so the stuff blew up in the air. I took it, started throwing it, it stuck in my hair. I looked like the abominable snowman. The place went nuts. And Tony Puglisi, Bruno Sammartino's cousin, said, "You know, maybe you could eat a turnbuckle." And we all just laughed at it. About 2 weeks later, I was wrestling with Chief Jay Strongbow, and he was doing all of his antics. I was doing all of mine. The people were sitting on their hands. It was just not working. The match really wasn't getting it done. So I looked at the turnbuckle. I thought, I wonder. I went over, took a bite, ripped it open, boom, rubbed it in his face. The place went nuts, and it didn't take me 3 or 4 months to figure out that wasn't a bad thing to do. I started doing that every night. But my greatest advocate was my wife, because I had to learn all these maneuvers. And I put wrist locks on her and teach her how to put a hammer lock on me, and we reversed back and forth until I learned how to use all these crazy wrestling holds. And I got real good at using wrestling holds with my wife in the kitchen while she was trying to wash dishes. "Get out of here," she'd tell me. But then I'd get in the ring with a guy like Bruno Sammartino, and all those holes went out the window. I would pound on Bruno. I was a brawler. I wasn't a wrestler. I'd kick his tail, and then all of a sudden he would start this stuff, and the Italians would start coming up, and all of a sudden it was a dangerous place to be. And I feel pretty lucky, and I owe it all back to wrestling and things like Acclaim. They just keep popping up for me. I spend my time trying to help people. So many people in the world today are hurting and suffering in different ways, health-wise, financially. People get up every morning and go to a job that they hate. They work with people that they don't like. They come home at night and drink a beer. They don't have time to hug their kids. I'm helping people get out of that syndrome, and I love it. I mean, I've got so much that I want to give back, and so many different ways that I can do it. And I owe so much because life and God has been so good to me. So that's where I'm at. You know what? Tonight, on Acclaim, anyone that wants to try me, come on down, Daddy, because it's the end of the line. You push the buttons, and I win. Bye-bye! I wrestled for actually about 35 years. I was very fortunate that I got a break in wrestling early on, and it just kept going on and on. I taught school, and I wrestled in the summertime, so my body didn't take the beating that a lot of people did, a lot of people's bodies did, so I was able to really stretch it to the farthest limits, probably. First year I went to New York, can you imagine my traveling compadres as Captain Lou Albano and Tony Altimore, two of the biggest characters in the business, and I say this with all the due love that you could give them. They're going to break this young kid, and I was as green as grass. They're going to break him in the right way. So every time, they picked me up every day at the hotel, drove me to the arena, stopped to eat. If we spent the night at a hotel, they took me to the hotel, dropped me off, whatever. They took care of me. And they liked me so much that every night, every day, every time we stopped to eat, they would grab the tab, say, no, this is on us. This is on us. This is on. And I finally was kind of getting irritated with it. You know, I'm not a cheap guy. I'll pay my own way. This is your first year in here. You're our guest, da-da-da. This went on the whole summer, 2.5 months. But they were nice to me. They let me buy the gas every night. Gas costs more than food, actually. At the end of the summer, I'm ready to go home. It's the last show. They come in with a big laugh. All the boys are standing around. They're all kind of looking at me like I'm a jerk. And they present me with this brown bag. This brown bag had every tab that I had walked out on and they hadn't paid for. I had stolen my food and my groceries from every store, every restaurant on the East Coast. And I ended up looking like the big ha-ha at the end of the tour. Those are the kind of ribs that are fun. If I'd have got caught someday, I guess I'd go back and pay for all of them, but I didn't even know where to start. But we walked out on a lot of tabs due to that rib. Those are the kinds of things that they pull that are really kind of harmless to me, maybe a little tough on some of the restaurants. The funniest thing that ever happened to me in the ring, would you like to hear that one? This is going to be quick. They want me to wrestle a bear on live television. He's declawed, he's got a And I said, no, I'm not doing that. Oh, don't be afraid. I said, I'm not afraid of the bear. I know he's trained. I just don't think it's good for our business, because I always held the wrestling business in kind of high esteem, for a human to go wrestle a bear. But you're an animal. We want an animal and a bear. This is in Pittsburgh again. No, I'm not going to do it. Well, they advertised it. TV ratings were coming up, and they plugged it all over the place. The animal wrestles the bear. George Animal Steele's wrestling. So I get there that particular day. I drive up, and I see it, and I forgot all about it. I see the cage outside the truck. Victor the Bear's there. I go, oh, boy. Told him I wasn't going to do it. I'm stubborn. So I go in and say, okay, George, you're going to... I'm not doing it. Told you I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So they pleaded, and they got in their wallet, and they pleaded the right way. And they said to me, just go out and do your character with it, and then leave, and the trainer will get in and wrestle the bear. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I go out and do all my wild stuff. The bear gets all excited. It did its thing in the ring. No other way to say it, the bear shit in the ring. Now the bear is running through this stuff, and I'm looking at Bill Cardell, who's the announcer, and I said, Bill, guess what? He said, what? I said, I thought the TV was off. I had no idea that it was still running. I said, I scared the shit out of the bear. Well, now the lights go out. I mean, this boom. And this is in the middle of the show of rating week. Bottom line is, and it was live. We lost that TV show. The bottom line is, I was never asked to wrestle the bear again. Probably the wildest, craziest person I ever worked with. And you got to understand, in wrestling, you can't have two wild guys. You got to have a straight guy. It's like a cartoon, a comedian. He's got to have a straight guy and a funny guy. In wrestling, you got to have that. And I provided the wild stuff, but the guy that could feed that to me the best, probably, and I hate to say this because there's a lot of things that made working with him very tough, was Randy Macho Man Savage. This guy took advantage of everything. I don't know if it's because he was lazy or what. He was the cheapest guy in the world. I mean, he squeezed a dime. I mean, my gosh. But when it came to doing the ring thing, he could get the most out of the least. And I found it a lot of fun working with him. At times it was very aggravating because in reality, in real life, Elizabeth was his wife, and he was very, very jealous. He didn't want, one time I found out that during the match I was going to be laying on the ground, I was going to reach out very dramatically and grab Elizabeth by the ankle. he come in, and so I'm telling him what I'm going to do, and he went off. You can't, that's my wife. You're going to grab her by the ankle. He went nuts. It's just a show. I mean, my daughter's older than she is. But the JYD, God bless him, could always stir that pot, make it hotter. He said, Randy, you're missing the whole boat. He says, you got one question you should ask. And I said, what's that, man? He says, is George going to be laying on his belly looking at the concrete? Or is he going to be laying on his back looking up her dress? That's what you better find out. God, he went off. I mean, it was like a fire hall needed to be called in. And he would attack security guards because if somebody reached out and touched Elizabeth, he wanted to kill everybody. It was crazy, but boy, did he take advantage of it. Did I take advantage of it? He was so jealous that before I'd go to the ring, I'd tell him, Randy, relax, because he was hyper. Relax, relax, we're going to have fun. And I got to tell you, I got a daughter that's a lot older than Elizabeth, and this is just a show. Relax, relax, relax. Just as I would leave, because I was a bad guy. At that point, I was a good guy. And he was on his way to the ring, is the way this would be. Just as he was leaving for the ring, I'd say, but remember, I got a heck of a record with these young chicks around here. He was like this here, and he was on the spotlight. So I knew how to get out of him what I wanted.